Hey guys, welcome back to Legacy Saturday at General Games. We're heading into round 5. I'm Sam Loy. This is Michael Webb.
And yeah, so look, we're featuring a couple of familiar faces here. Apparently, Steve is just attracted to the camera somehow. So
yep. So this is our third feature with Steve and Sam Valvis.
Yep.
And we have Michael Billinghurst on your right of the screen. So this is the last round of Swiss. We have Stephen on 2-2. So he's trying to win this one to
get the win
potentially get in. He's not a surefire thing to get in, especially in a 5-round Swiss.
Yep.
And then we have Billinghurst, who at 3-1, if he wins or gets a draw, he's in for sure. So we have another Death and Taxes versus Delver matchup.
Which look, I have a horrible feeling. Unfortunately, this is a little bit unfavoured for Steve. Unfortunately,
although look, we have a flurry of spells to start off with, and a flip Delver on turn 2. So it's going about as well as it could, getting value out of the days, keeping him off that Stone Forge early, and starting the clock.
Yeah, and look, it's a pretty good start from Steve here, really. Like he's now got an actual threat. He's got things going on. He's going to find his next land.
There we are, 2 on the top, and another card that we can't just see there. But he's very happy to just draw the spell there, and then have the lands coming in the next 2 turns.
And I think he's found a true name Nemesis there, which actually might be one of his few reasonable outs for just all the sorts of plowshares and all the other interaction that the Death and Taxes deck can put together. So
absolutely, a little interaction with the lands on this couple of turns here. Richard and Port keeping Stamorpolis off mana, and Wasteland answering it.
Yeah, and nice and quickly and efficiently as well. So that's going to open up Steve's mana quite a bit, and obviously just make his life a lot easier.
Yeah, it's worth noting here as well that the more turns that Stephen gets in, the more damage he's getting in with the Delver.
Yeah. And yeah, look, we have a Revoker on Deathrite Shaman. Obviously, Revoker doesn't have a huge number of targets in this matchup, so it can only really pick the one creature. It might not be on the board, which kind of just leaves the Revoker as basically a bear.
Yeah, 2 mana, 2/1.
Yeah,
artifact creature. Yeah, I mean it's still it's a strong card, and that is a potential threat.
Yep.
We might see. It looks like we might see a counterspell here.
And fantastic. Steve's found a use for the Stifle as well.
So stifling the trigger.
Yeah, so Stifle's normally not quite completely dead in this matchup, but it's not particularly good.
Delver's getting the work in.
Yeah.
Billinghurst is already down to 8. And the True Name Nemesis.
And the True Name Nemesis might actually be able to seal this up. Steve has a Force of Will.
He's got the protection, he's got the threats, and he's getting it done really quickly. As you guys can see on our time, we're only a couple of minutes into this one.
I kind of figured this might not be a long match, but it's definitely not going the way that I thought it would. Steve has just been curving out nicely, just landing his threats and making the best use of his mana, as you'd like to say.
Yeah. Big on that. So I think the True Name Nemesis is just showing its real power here. Just closing out this game in a very reliable way. Although just Gisela Gold Knight countered. But a reasonable out there. Not a card that I'd seen him playing earlier today.
No, look, it's not a card I think I've ever really seen in a D&T deck, but
Lifelink's a thing.
Yep.
And we see a Lightning Bolt just closing out those last 2 points of damage there, and Stamorpolis taking game 1.
Okay, and so I guess we're going to have to. We've got his list up here again, so
yeah. So going to sideboard, we have a few options.
Yep, so I think we like probably a Braid Ancient Grudge, Colligan's Command, possibly the Thought Seizers. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, so we've got him on the screen making the changes. There's a Stifle's quickly making his way out of the main, and it looks like he's having a think about the Force of Wills as well.
Yeah.
And there's Days as well.
So Days, I think, is not amazing in the matchup just because, look, they'll make the land drops. One's a little bit like the Blade deck that we saw before.
Yep.
They'll make their first few land drops. They play a lot of basics. It's hard to deny their mana very well. So Days gets a lot weaker very quickly.
Looks like we're staying with 1 Stifle here.
Yep.
Maybe 2, and taking out a package of counterspells. just for more reliable removal by the looks of it.
Okay, and so yeah, he definitely brought in all the Thought Seizers, and then
Yeah, so we're
did I
just
see the Staticaster there?
is playing a Staticaster. And there's some Spell Piercers making their way out of the deck as well.
Yeah, so they're going to be pretty hopeless in the matchup too.
Absolutely. So we're moving more from a counterspell, protect your threat sort of game plan to something which is just a little bit more disrupting the board.
Yeah.
And disrupting the hand a bit with Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is a bit better than I would say than most counterspells in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, look, except for Force of Will, for the few times you're actually going to get to hard counter something, which is look, as we saw before, it
comes up, sure.
Yeah,
but it's not.
It's not
it's
reliable.
not online for that much of the game. And one of the big problems with Thoughtseize and hand disruption in general is that as the turns go on, the hands get emptied. They don't have that many targets. But it's exactly the same for Force of Will here as well.
Well, the Thoughtseize is probably a little better because, as you were saying, look, you
has
might empty
a
your
larger
hands,
window. Yeah.
but it's just also like the Stoneforge is a tutor, which provides you a target because you're obviously there's not going to be many occasions where you're going to get to go Stoneforge and play out your piece of equipment in the same turn.
Yeah.
So this gives it's a window for if you have the Thoughtseize is going to be live, which it's not ideal, but it's better than
nothing. Yeah. Yeah, one of those occasions where the deck isn't entirely well set up to deal with it.
No.
So we're seeing him make the best changes possible with the cards available. And hey, he's playing a lot of generically good cards anyway. So it's not like he's forced to play bad cards. It's just not everything lines up 100% how you'd like it to.
But I mean, this is the point of having the broadest sideboard you possibly can.
Absolutely.
You don't want to.
We're seeing a lot of that today as well. Everyone with fairly robust sideboards, things that, it's got 2 of this, 3 of this, a bunch of 1-obs, and realistically you can mix and match the packages just for whatever you're playing against in a pretty open field.
Yeah, it's a good sign of, I guess, like how healthy the Legacy metagame is. It's a nice change from the sideboards of, say, 3-4 months ago when you'd have maybe 10 cards, 5 to 10 cards normally dedicated just for your Miracles matchup. And then you've got to make sure that you can make use of the rest of the other 5 cards as best you can. Here we have much broader sideboards. It's showing a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more game, and just I guess a sign of a more interesting meta.
Yeah. I'm very happy to say this. I'm not the biggest Sensei's Divining Top fan as a person personally. I know some people just really love it.
I personally love it, but I mean I wasn't necessarily that happy to see it go. Cool. And we see Steve make
the Force of Will play on the Aether Vial again.
Straight off the... So unfortunately, that's left the rest of Steve's hand looking a bit poor.
Yeah, it's fairly anemic, but it's sort of something he's been priced into.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, he has to take care of that Vial. It's not really doing...
Well, here's a Staticaster. That's going to be able to answer the Thalia.
Yep. And that's just going to be... as long as
he's got a Colligan's Command in hand as well, so... That's not a bad combination of cards to have. Obviously, he's going to need to draw into something, but at the same time, he's going to be able to stick it out a little bit longer as well.
Yeah, and he's not scared of Wasteland here either.
No,
not
with that many lands.
No. So I'm just trying to have a peek at what Billinghurst has in hand here. He's got a Cavern, which is going to obviously shut off all the interactions shortly. A Swords to Plowshares, which will take good care of the Staticaster. And... we'll see the rest in a second.
Yeah.
I did see what looked like a couple of threats in there as well.
Yeah, he's not short on cards, quite yet. But we're going to see a nice little 2-for-1 from the Staticaster, drawing removal at the same time as taking out a threat.
Yep.
And we might actually see the Caracas bounce the Thalia. I don't know that I hate that, but it's not great. It's not.
It's a bit of an awkward play, I think.
It is awkward, but at the same time, that makes it really awkward.
Yeah. I mean, that seems pretty good. So he gets to keep his Thalia. Steve has to, although this is going to be a little...
Yeah, it looks like he's trying to keep that Cavern in hand just so he can cast his Flicker Wisp at some point.
Did I see a Wasteland in Steve's hand? Maybe it might be correct here to Wasteland his only white source.
I think at the least it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Here we go.
Yep. He's just hoping to mana screw him here. Unfortunately, look, Michael is now sort of mana screwed, but not completely.
Yeah, he's got action, and he's got ways to. He's got stuff to do with his mana at the moment, but he doesn't have every card online, which is obviously quite a good position for Stephen. And he's also Stephen's also drawn a Snapcaster, so he's got that nice little combination of Kolaghan's Command and Snapcaster Mage.
And I wonder if he's maybe going to go. I suppose he can't Snap Ponder next turn. No, he can, but it just seems like it's not quite where you want to be. And a Mother of Runes. Okay.
Okay, so I think this is where we'll likely see the Kolaghan's Command and then Snapcaster. Yeah, and they're gonna combine. All right, so we're playing 4 mana and we're doing 2 damage to the Thalia and killing a card out of hand.
And I guess so Steve might
see what he discards.
Want to. What's he? Okay, so is that Gisela? Okay, Gisela, Flicker Wisp, and.
Okay, so he's discarded the Flicker Wisp. That's interesting. That second cabin was coming down naming Elemental, and that is Flicker Wisp is an Elemental. Yep. So he's actually 2 white sources away from Gisela at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah, and here we have the other half of the Kolaghan's Command coming back, and another 2 for 1, and a Snapcaster in play. And yeah, so he's got Gisela.
Oh, there we go. And he can now jam the Gisela. So
okay, so Gisela must be a soldier, and they will share a type, so he can cast it with that first cabin.
Okay.
So big lifelinker in play.
Okay, cool.
It turns out he can't cast it.
Yep, so he didn't have the second white source there.
Okay, that is definitely a problem.
Yeah, so look, fortunately, Steve, when he did Wasteland the Caracas there before, he dealt quite well with... Yeah, he managed to actually mana screw Michael. Which,
yeah, it's kept him off a rather large threat. And now we see him, rip a couple of cards that can potentially deal with the board. There's a Chandra, sorry, not Chandra.
It's a Braid?
A Braid and a Lightning Bolt. I don't know why I'm thinking about Chandra right now. But
I mean, a Chandra would be nice for Steve.
It would be fantastic.
Right
I don't think it's quite on the level of Jace.
No.
But yeah, the Braid will be able to deal with the sword, and the Lightning Bolt will be able to deal with the Gisela, and then...
so that's a Spirit of the Labyrinth, which is just going to snare up. Nice use of Spell Snare. Spell Snare, I think, is thoroughly underrated in the format. There's just so many good 2-drops like Snapcaster Mage, him, most of D&T, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's just
if you can dodge the vial,
then you've just got an amazing counterspell.
Obviously, incredibly mana efficient, and the great thing about it as well is that they can't, just leave a mana up, leave 2 mana up, and still resolve their spell through it.
Yeah, it
has a lot of value in long games.
Counter, so,
yeah, exactly.
And we just see it coming into its own here, where he just gets rid of the Spirit, which is, I mean, the Spirit doesn't crush Steve here, but it definitely cuts off all his cantrips.
Yeah.
Which is his consistency tool. And he's obviously lighter on threats, so he needs to be heavier on his ability to find his next pieces. So
absolutely, and we see another Snapcaster hit the hand there. Not too much of a poker move there. Immediately looking through your graveyard, but
I mean, he could be signaling Tombstalker, or he could be
whichever one it is.
Okay, and we got a Flicker Wisp. So
uncounterable Flicker Wisp.
Yeah.
Trying it on. Are you going to blink my Snapcaster, give me a spell for free? Turns out no. Turns out not. All right, and this is in response to an equip from the sword.
And Steve's going to, obviously push the Flicker Wisp.
Okay, yeah.
So I think the way he has to do it is he has to float the mana, wait for the land to be exiled, then push the Flicker Wisp. Otherwise, I don't think the push can kill a Flicker Wisp because of the mana restrictions on it.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's just so Revolt is targeted. So exactly. What happens is that the land exits play, Revolt's on, he's got mana floating already, and then you push that flying guy somewhere, somehow, and then it dies. It does take a lot of effort to push the Flicker Wisp to death.
And look, you can just see...
here we go. Here's the white sauce. All right.
Okay.
Well, we know what we're looking at this point.
It's going to be a Gisela, and is that a 4/3? So that's
going to
actually
attach,
just going to get
here's going to be a Lightning Bolt. Yeah. Oh, it might be in a Braid.
Okay.
Interesting. He'd rather keep the lightning bolt as a more mana efficient answer to something else.
So I mean that kind of makes sense.
Goes to 7, and we're going to see an attack, an activation, and a snapcaster mage going back with the lightning bolt, and this should be lethal.
Yeah, and that's just going to be beautiful. There we go.
All right, there we go. That's 2-0 to Stephen. Another quick one.
He's cleaned it up, and yeah, look, given he's just managed to take a good punt at that, hopefully he makes it into top 8. So
yeah. So he's going to have to sweat it now. Sitting on 9 points at the end of Swiss, and well, both of them will. They're both on 9 points now, so it'll come down to breakers for those two. So maybe you'll see him in the top 8, and maybe you won't.
Well, I guess we'll find out soon.
Yeah, we will find out soon. Good matchup, Death and Taxes once again. Doing its thing, but this time Delver able to get under it, disrupted enough, and not get shut out of the game.
Yeah, we actually I'm just glad we got to see a nice, relatively interactive game after some of the non-games we've seen here on.
Yeah, well, a few snowballers, but that's magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for us from round 5. We'll see you in top 8, and thanks very much for watching, guys.
All right. Fantastic.